The extraction vessel glided silently through the void, its engines humming with quiet intensity as it approached the looming silhouette of the enemy stronghold. Against the backdrop of a star-strewn sky, the Trion command hub rose like a dark fortress, a jagged mass of angular architecture and pulsing energy fields that betrayed its deadly purpose. The vessel's viewports offered a window into this grim reality, sprawling arrays of automated defense turrets, shifting energy shields, and clusters of enemy warships arrayed in ominous formation. Inside the vessel's command center, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation and the lingering echoes of recent sacrifice. Crew members and warriors moved with purposeful precision amid a mosaic of dim lighting and holographic displays. The data from the sabotage of the previous mission still glowed on their screens, a reminder that their actions had ignited the wrath of the Trions. Every face, illuminated by the cold blue light of the consoles, bore a mix of determination and uncertainty, a silent acknowledgement that the stakes had never been higher. Alpha stood at the helm of the command deck, his eyes fixed on the approaching enemy fortress. In the low light, the details of the stronghold emerged, towers bristling with energy cannons, labyrinthine corridors that hinted at hidden defenses, and an ever-present sense of organized brutality. The vessel trembled slightly as it neared the boundary of the enemy's influence, and the crew braced themselves for what was to come. Around him, his trusted lieutenants exchanged looks of resolute concern. Sarah, the tactician, adjusted her data pad as she reviewed the latest intelligence, her fingers moving swiftly over the holographic interface, marking possible points of infiltration. Lyra's eyes, filled with both scientific curiosity and a fierce determination, scanned the real-time feeds that depicted the enemy's alert levels rising. Every flicker of data, every shift in the enemy's defenses, underscored the magnitude of the impending confrontation. The tension in the chamber was palpable. There was an unspoken understanding that the extraction vessel was not simply a means of transport, it was a moving bastion of hope, carrying the future of the wax. The silence was broken only by the soft beeps of consoles and the steady rhythm of the engines, each sound intensifying the gravity of the moment. As the vessel drew closer, a brief flash of emergency lights rippled through the deck, a signal that the Trions had detected disturbances in their perimeter. The extraction vessel's exterior sensors picked up rapid movements among the enemy's patrol ships. In that moment, the weight of their previous actions pressed heavily on every soul aboard. The sabotage had not gone unnoticed, and the Trions were preparing to unleash their full fury. Alpha's voice, measured and resolute, cut through the rising tension. "Steady now," he commanded, his tone both reassuring and unyielding. "Our path is set. We will breach their defenses and strike at the heart of their command. Remember, every sacrifice, every moment we've endured, has led us here. We stand ready." In that instant, as the extraction vessel edged into the dark shadow of the enemy stronghold, a silent promise passed between the crew, a vow that no matter what awaited them on the other side of the void, they would face it together. The fortress ahead was a symbol of the Trion's power, but it would soon become the stage upon which the wax would defy fate. In the quiet, tension-filled corridors of the extraction vessel, a select infiltration team prepared for their daring descent into enemy territory. Their faces, lit by the glow of subdued control panels and holographic maps, betrayed neither fear nor hesitation, only a determined focus. The plan was simple in theory, yet every step forward was laden with risk. The team gathered near a discreet exit hatch, their gear silently humming with specialized stealth technology honed for this very moment. Their uniforms, woven with adaptive camouflage fibers, shimmered softly to blend with the darkness of space. Every piece of equipment had been meticulously checked, energy weapons recalibrated to pulse in sync with the enemy's frequency, and compact shields primed for instant deployment. Alpha addressed the team in a low, measured tone. "Remember, the objective is to breach the outer perimeter of the command hub without detection. Follow the pre-mapped route exactly, and stay in formation. We move silently and swiftly." His words, both a command and a promise, resonated deeply with each member as they exchanged determined glances. One by one, the infiltration team activated their cloaking modules. The vessel's ambient hum masked the soft whir of the activation sequence as their forms blurred into near invisibility. With practiced precision, the group stepped through the hatch into the vacuum beyond, a narrow corridor that bridged the safety of their vessel and the perilous exterior of the Trion stronghold. Outside, the darkness of space was punctuated only by distant, glimmering stars and the imposing silhouette of the enemy fortress. The command hub's surface was a brutal landscape of angular metal, pulsing energy barriers, and strategically placed sensors that scanned the void. The infiltration team's path was planned along the margins of these defenses, where shadows merged with the darkness, offering a slim corridor of safety. They moved as one, each step synchronized to the silent beat of their hearts. The cold void pressed in around them, yet the team's resolve burned like a hidden flame. In their helmets, augmented reality overlays provided live tactical updates, a labyrinth of schematics and enemy patrol patterns that dictated every movement. A tense moment came as they approached a heavily guarded segment of the perimeter. Automated drones patrolled in slow, methodical sweeps, their sensors casting fleeting beams of light across the surface. The team halted, muscles coiled in anticipation. Through their visors, the intricate dance of enemy sensors and automated defense routines was mapped out with chilling clarity. Alpha signaled, and the group split into a staggered formation to avoid detection. One operative, a seasoned veteran with a scarred visor and unwavering gaze, expertly timed a brief, synchronized sprint to slip past the scanning drones. The tension was almost tangible, a single misstep could alert the enemy to their presence. Yet, every member of the team moved with the confidence born of countless hours of training and the shared resolve to secure a future for the wax. After what felt like an eternity compressed into mere moments, the team found themselves at the threshold of the enemy's outer perimeter. Here, the environment shifted, the stark, cold void gave way to the ominous glow of Trion energy barriers and the distant, low rumble of their heavy machinery. The fabric of space near the stronghold vibrated with the power of the enemy's defenses. With silent determination, the infiltration team initiated the next phase of their mission, to breach the perimeter and advance into the labyrinthine depths of the command hub. Their cloaked forms slid along the structure's surface, guided by the precise coordinates transmitted by the extraction vessel. Every heartbeat, every measured breath, carried the weight of what was at stake, a future teetering on the edge of chaos and hope. And so, as the enemy fortress loomed larger with each passing second, the infiltration team pressed on into the darkness. Their journey had only just begun, and the next phase of their mission would demand every ounce of skill, courage, and unity they possessed. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but their silent commitment to defy the Trions pulsed as strongly as the distant stars. The wax warriors surged forward, pressing deeper into the Trion stronghold. Their energy weapons carved glowing arcs through the dim corridors, cutting down resistance with precision. But the Trions were far from defeated. A sudden tremor rippled through the station. From the depths of the fortress, massive armored figures emerged, Trion enforcers. Unlike the standard foot soldiers, these towering warriors were encased in obsidian-like plating, their glowing crimson visors scanning the battlefield with cold efficiency. Their weapons were brutal, pulse hammers that emitted gravitational shockwaves with each swing, disrupting the very fabric of the battlefield. One enforcer lunged at a group of wax operatives, its hammer crashing down and sending them sprawling as the artificial gravity flickered wildly. Alpha barely managed to stabilize himself, forming a protective barrier as another enforcer advanced. Sarah and a squad of fighters took aim, unleashing concentrated energy blasts at the armored behemoth. The enforcer staggered but didn't fall, their armor was absorbing the attacks. Focus on the joints. Lyra shouted through the comms. She had already deduced their weakness. Alpha adjusted his stance, channeling his energy into a concentrated lance of pure force. It shot forward, piercing through the enforcer's knee joint. The massive warrior faltered, and Sarah followed up with a precisely placed explosive round, shattering the weakened armor and bringing the enemy down. As more enforcers surged forward, a new problem arose. The station groaned under the weight of battle. A ruptured power conduit exploded along the corridor, sending a shockwave through the station's infrastructure. The artificial gravity fluctuated, causing fighters on both sides to stumble as their footing shifted unpredictably. Alpha quickly adapted, using his energy manipulation to stabilize himself mid-air. The Trions, more accustomed to raw strength than finesse, struggled to adjust. Seizing the advantage, the Wax warriors coordinated their strikes, maneuvering effortlessly through the unstable battlefield. They danced between floating debris, striking at vulnerable points with calculated precision. Another explosion rocked the station as a failing reactor vented raw plasma into the corridors. The heat distorted the air, and the battlefield became a warzone of shifting hazards. The Wax had to weave between deadly energy surges while fending off the relentless Trion forces. Lyra, still linked into the station's systems, worked furiously to stabilize the collapsing infrastructure. Then, a chilling sound echoed through the comms. Trion reinforcements had breached their escape route. Alpha knew they couldn't afford to be trapped. Push forward. We need to secure the command hub before we're cut off. The battle was far from over, and the true test of their strength had only just begun. The battle raged through the corridors of the Trion warship, each step a relentless struggle for survival. The Wax forces, agile and precise, weaved between bursts of enemy fire, using their energy shields to deflect incoming plasma rounds. But the Trions were not ordinary soldiers, they had adapted. From deeper within the warship, heavily armored Trion enforcers emerged, their forms enhanced with exoskeletal plating that absorbed direct hits. Their pulse hammers crackled with unstable energy, capable of sending shockwaves through the deck plating with each devastating swing. Sarah narrowly dodged a hammer strike as it crushed the floor where she had stood moments ago. Sparks erupted from the impact zone, and the force sent her skidding backward. She responded with a swift arc of her energy blade, slicing clean through the enforcer's exposed joint. The creature let out a guttural snarl but didn't fall, their resilience was monstrous. Lyra adjusted the frequency on her energy cannon, shifting its output to an electromagnetic pulse. Their armor absorbs direct attacks, aim for their exposed cybernetic nodes, she called out. Alpha acknowledged with a nod, twisting mid-air to avoid another Trion's blade before driving his energy-fused strike into its unprotected throat. The enemy convulsed and collapsed. The battlefield itself became a hazard. Damage to the ship's power conduits sent arcs of electricity dancing across the walls, creating lethal obstacles. Gravity stabilizers fluctuated, making movement erratic. One moment, Wax soldiers found themselves weighed down, the next they were weightless, their footing unstable. The chaos forced both sides to adapt on the fly, turning the battle into a desperate test of skill and survival. A deep tremor rocked the ship as one of the reactor conduits ruptured, sending a plume of fire down the adjacent corridor. The ship's AI issued an automated warning in the Trion language, indicating critical damage. Alpha saw the opportunity. Push forward. We turn this warship into their tomb, he commanded, leading the charge toward the command center. The Trions, despite their superior strength, struggled to maintain control as their own ship worked against them. As the Wax forces advanced, the enforcers adjusted their tactics, switching to concussive grenades designed to disrupt energy-based defenses. One detonated near Alpha, sending him crashing into a control panel. His vision blurred for a moment, but he forced himself to focus. There was no time for hesitation. Lyra hacked into the ship's mainframe through a nearby console, searching for an override to disable the enforcer's power cores. "I can weaken them, but I need time," she shouted. "Then we hold the line." Sarah planted her feet, deflecting a barrage of plasma fire with a rotating energy shield, before counterattacking with precision strikes. The Wax warriors fought in unison, their movements synchronized, their abilities pushing them beyond their limits. The battle reached a fever pitch as another gravity shift threw combatants against the walls. Alpha used the moment to propel himself upward, landing atop a Trion officer and driving his blade through its core. He locked eyes with Lyra, her hands moved frantically across the holographic interface. Almost there, just a little more. The next few seconds would decide everything. The battle inside the Trion Command Center had turned into a storm of energy blasts, rapid maneuvers, and brutal close-quarters combat. The Wax operatives moved with calculated precision, their energy weapons carving glowing trails through the dimly lit corridors. Yet, the Trion enforcers, towering in their advanced exo-armor, countered with devastating power, their heavy particle cannons unleashing pulses that melted walls and sent shockwaves through the station. Sarah darted through the chaos, using her agility to avoid a crushing strike from a Trion warrior wielding a massive plasma glaive. The weapon hummed as it sliced through the air, missing her by inches. She retaliated with a burst from her energy blaster, but the Enforcer's armor absorbed the hit, the impact only leaving a smoldering dent. Cursing under her breath, she switched tactics, summoning an energy blade from her wrist gauntlet and lunging forward. The Trion swung again, but she ducked, sliding beneath the blade and driving her weapon into the weak point at the back of the Enforcer's knee. The warrior staggered, giving her just enough time to leap up and drive a second strike into its exposed neck joint. Sparks erupted as the massive alien collapsed. Meanwhile, Alpha led the charge toward the control nexus, his movements precise and unyielding. A Trion Centurion blocked his path, this one larger than the rest, its crimson armor pulsing with reinforced shielding. The Centurion raised its arm, and an energy whip unfurled, crackling with volatile plasma. Alpha barely managed to erect a protective energy shield before the whip lashed against it, sending waves of force rippling through his body. The Trion snarled. "You think you can walk into our domain and survive? You are nothing but an anomaly to be erased." Alpha didn't respond. Instead, he focused, channeling raw energy into his hands. When the Centurion struck again, Alpha caught the whip mid-air, absorbing the energy and twisting it back toward his opponent. The Centurion staggered, its shields flickering. Seizing the opening, Alpha propelled himself forward, phasing through the remaining defenses and striking with a concentrated blast of energy directly into the Centurion's core. The Trion collapsed in a burst of white-hot light. Across the battlefield, Lyra worked frantically at the main terminal. The system fought back, Trion countermeasures triggering security overrides that forced her to rewrite the code in real time. The Nexus core, now interfaced with the station's network, pulsed with unstable energy, feeding into the override process. But something was wrong. They've set up a failsafe. Lyra shouted over the comms. If I force the override, the entire station might destabilize. Before she could adjust her approach, a new threat emerged. Trion drones swarmed into the room, their sleek metallic frames shifting as they adapted to counter the Wax presence. They fired synchronized pulses of energy, forcing the Wax to take cover. Sarah and the others scrambled to hold them off. "Lyra, whatever you're doing, do it fast. We can't hold this position forever." The battle raged on, but deep within the station, something else stirred. A hidden force. Watching. Waiting. The infiltrators advanced deeper into the heart of the Trion command hub, their movements swift and precise. Alpha led the charge, his energy blade humming as he carved through the reinforced corridors, his senses attuned to the pulsing rhythm of the stronghold. The walls, formed from a dark, almost living metal, twisted with the faint glow of Trion energy signatures, responding to their every step. Ahead, the air shimmered, and a massive bulkhead door groaned open. A squad of Trion elites emerged, their armor enhanced with pulsating veins of dark energy. Unlike the common soldiers, these warriors were larger, faster, their movements eerily synchronized, guided by an unseen intelligence. The first of them lunged, twin plasma-edged gauntlets extending like talons. Alpha barely evaded the strike, countering with a precise energy pulse that sent the warrior skidding backward. But the Trions adapted quickly. One of them activated a distortion field, phasing in and out of visibility as it closed the distance within human speed. Lyra ducked behind cover, recalibrating her energy rifle. "They're using temporal destabilizers. We can't predict their movements." A sharp shockwave pulsed through the chamber as one of the Trion warriors slammed an armored fist into the floor, sending a gravitational distortion rippling outward. Wax operatives were thrown off balance, struggling against the sudden shift in gravity. Alpha gritted his teeth, channeling his own energy manipulation to stabilize himself. He adjusted his stance, then surged forward, weaving between flickering forms. His blade met resistance as he clashed with the Trion commander, a towering figure with intricate runes etched into its armor, each glowing with stored kinetic force. Their battle was brutal. The commander's weapon, a staff crackling with contained antimatter, swung with devastating power. Each strike sent shockwaves through the chamber, the force distorting the very fabric of space around them. Alpha barely managed to deflect one blow, feeling the impact reverberate through his body. Meanwhile, Lyra's team adapted. Using localized energy dampeners, they disrupted the Trion's phasing technology, forcing them into full visibility. With a coordinated volley of precision shots, they brought down two of the elite warriors, but more surged forward, relentless. "We need to finish this now," Lyra shouted. Alpha pushed harder, reading the subtle shifts in his opponent's movements. With a final, precise feint, he redirected the commander's strike, driving his energy blade through the weak point in the Trion's armor. The being let out a low, guttural sound as its body convulsed, collapsing in a flare of dissipating energy. The remaining Trion warriors hesitated, only for a moment. Then, as if receiving a silent command, they reformed, retreating toward the deeper corridors of the command hub. Alpha exhaled, his grip tightening on his weapon. "They're regrouping. This isn't over." Lyra's eyes scanned the battlefield, noting the damage, the cost. "We push forward. Whatever they're hiding, we're close." As they pressed on, a strange energy pulse radiated from the depths of the stronghold, a signal that something even more dangerous awaited them. The battle was over. The bodies of fallen Trion warriors lay scattered across the command hub, their armor still flickering with remnants of energy. The air smelled of scorched metal and ionized plasma, and the once imposing fortress now felt eerily silent. Alpha stood amidst the wreckage, his energy blade dimming as he exhaled a slow, steady breath. But something was wrong. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Warning sirens blared through the corridors, their shrill tones cutting through the silence. A crimson glow bathed the walls as emergency systems activated, and suddenly, a cold, mechanical voice echoed through the structure in the harsh Trion tongue. Lyra turned to Alpha, her expression tense. "That's a countdown. They're triggering a purge." Before he could respond, the command consoles flickered, and a holographic projection emerged from the central dais. A towering Trion figure, draped in regal war armor, gazed at them with piercing, molten gold eyes. It wasn't the fallen commander, this was someone else. Someone more dangerous. "You think this was a victory?" The Trion's voice was laced with amusement and scorn. "You have sealed your fate. The war was never meant to be fought on this battlefield. It has already begun elsewhere." The image distorted, but not before revealing a final, chilling sight, a fleet. Hundreds of Trion warships emerging from the void, their weapons charging, their destination unknown. The transmission cut off. The countdown continued. Alpha clenched his fists, realization settling in like ice in his veins. They had won here. But had they just fallen into the real trap?